So I'm really on this mission to be better at being the church. I think that the church in our world today, the church in America, the church in California, the church where we gather, you know, I, along with all my brothers and sisters in Christ who lead churches all over the city of Stockton, I would think, you know, ponder this question, you know, because how do we do church? Church has become kind of like everything else in the world, you know, another consumer agency. I've said a couple weeks ago, there's a reason why people don't come to church, and it's not because they're trying to be sinful or disobedient. They genuinely don't, they feel like they don't need church, so they don't come to church. Some of you don't come to Bible study because you go, well, I don't need Bible study. So I'm good. Or I don't need to go to prayer group because I don't need prayer. And so we've been kind of looking at that, of what it means to live in community. What is the church of Jesus Christ in our world today? What are we making it? What did Jesus want it to be? What was Jesus' intention all along? The first instance of the word church is actually in Matthew, where Jesus asked the disciples, who are people saying that I am? Essentially, the church in our world has an unspoken statement. Really listen to what I'm saying. The church in our world today speaks out loudly, quietly, however they do that, in whatever means they do that. The church is proclaiming to the world around them who Jesus Christ is. That's really what the church is doing. And rightfully so, because when Jesus said, who do you say that I am? He was asking, first he was asking the disciples, what's word on the street? I've been doing a lot of things. Everybody's pretty enamored by me. They're pretty fascinated by me. And so, but who do they think I am? And so they begin to give a list of, boy, I think you're really smart. You know, you're like a prophet. You seem to really know, you seem to know what you're talking about. You're a miracle worker. You know, they go through the list. Some think that you might actually be Elisha, who was a great prophet that everybody knew about. And so then he says, how about you? And he looks at his closest followers who live with him, eat with him, sleep with him. They do everything with Jesus. They are homeless with Jesus. They serve with Jesus. They see the miracles. They kind of have the inner teachings of Jesus. Oftentimes, quite frankly, most of you would be totally confused by Jesus' preaching. Right? He would just go out and he'd say something and then leave. And it was like, what does that mean? Where's the PowerPoint, the illustrations? I didn't get it. What are you talking about? Right? And so then Jesus says, what about you? Because the disciples got to be in that kind of inner circle. And so he would explain things. And he said, who am I to you? And of course, Peter answers and he says, you are the Christ, or some Bibles say the Messiah. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Peter got it right. Peter was very excited about getting it right. He didn't always get things right. So then Jesus said, it is on that I will build my church. And I'm paraphrasing for you guys. But basically, that's essentially what Jesus says. This is what the church is going to be. It is going to be the body of Jesus Christ that proclaims that I am the Christ, that I am the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And I don't know how we're doing. And when I say we're doing, I don't necessarily mean 915 Rosemarie. I'm talking about we, the body of believers in our world today. I think they're doing a lot better job on the mission field than they are here in America or in European countries maybe, or more advanced countries. But I think that the church has to fight against conforming to what everybody else does in the world. We've become another consumer agency. It's why there's people that don't come to church. Why? Because I don't need to. How many of you do not go to a gym? Now, keep your hands up. Some of you should. No, I'm just kidding. Right? I should. But there's running required. And so, and your heart rate's got to get up and sweating. And could I go to a building where if I go in, I have a Snickers and a soda, and I walk out, I'm skinny? I would love that. But let's build some of those places. But anyway, but you don't go to a gym because obviously that's not a big need in your life, right? And that's the exact same reason some people don't go to church or they don't go to Bible study. You know, they just don't feel like it's a need in their life. And so what the church has done is we've conformed to everybody else, and we have said, okay, world, we will allow that label to become who we are. We are the church, and so we're just like everybody else. We're just like the gym down the street or the health store down the street or whatever other consumer type agencies, right? You wouldn't go to a bicycle club if you didn't ride a bike, right? So whatever it is, we've just kind of conformed, and I think that pastors and churches have to really fight against, because we are not a consumer agency. We do offer something. The greatest gift in the world is Jesus Christ. That part we do. So I've just been on this journey for a while, and really it was my junior hires at Brookside that sent me on that mission probably 5 months ago, of really figuring out what is church. And so, because I don't think it's what we've intended it to be. What it's intended to be, excuse me, not what we're doing what we're intending to do. But I'm not sure that we're meeting what Jesus wants us to do. Because the church really is supposed to be a collective body of people. Let me just simplify it. If every one of us in here makes that same confession this morning, that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, that Jesus Christ is who he says he is, and you believe in what that means. And let me tell you something, you guys, that's huge. That's not just, oh, I believe in Jesus. No. I don't mean do you believe in the existence of Jesus Christ. I don't even mean do you believe in the existence that Jesus was God, is God, and is the Son of God. It's, do you understand who Jesus is? And the more you get to know who Jesus is, and that's really a confession of your life, I'm going to tell you something. You will desperately want other people to know it. You will want other people to know about who Jesus Christ is, and that's the church. And so there's a parable, there's this story in the Bible. It's not called a parable, but we know that it is a parable. And a parable literally just means story. And it's in Luke. I just have the reference up, and you're welcome to look it up. But it's a very simple story. And Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. He's kind of addressing the Pharisees in a roundabout way. Pharisees were the religious leaders. Let me put it in terms you understand. Pharisees were the ones who went to church all the time. Pharisees, in many ways, were the church leaders of the time. They didn't call it church, they called it temple. But Pharisees were the ones who knew the law. They would be the ones you went to class. A Pharisee would teach you if you were going to learn the law. And you were going to learn God's truths. The Pharisees knew those in temple. And so, in some ways, if you kind of look before and after, Jesus is really kind of coming at the Pharisees, because the Pharisees really believed that it was just about following a list of rules, and because they followed them according to them so well, that they were fine to get to go to heaven. That they were children of Abraham. That in fact, that often they would say that to Jesus. Are you calling us children of the devil? Because our father is Abraham. He got into a discourse with the Pharisees on that. So this is a story that when I was early on in my faith, I read this story, and I remember when I first read it, and I wasn't as certainly mature now in my faith that I am, so when I was kind of a baby Christian, I read this story and I thought, wow, that's kind of tough. That doesn't make sense. And it's the story of the rich man and Lazarus. And it says there was a rich man, meaning he had lots, who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. So there's a chance that he might even have some royalty because of the purple. I'm not really sure there. But obviously he was very well off. At his gate, so he probably had like a compound, I mean, not just a house. But where he resided, right, laid a beggar named Lazarus. Don't get confused. This is not the Lazarus who, I was going to say dad. That's nice. I do call him father once in a while. Who Jesus resurrected. It's not the same Lazarus. Two different Lazaruses. So here's this beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and hungry, longing to eat whatever fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. So here we have this beggar, just to give you a picture. He's out in front of this man's mansion, we'll say. And he's got wounds on him. And also what would it look like today? He probably goes through the man's trash to get his leftover food. And he sits there. Well, the time came when the beggar died, when Lazarus died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side in heaven. The rich man also eventually dies, and he was buried in Hades, which is hell, where he was in torment. So when I first read this, I thought, all rich people go to hell, and poor people, and I'm like, well, how about the middle class? Where do we go? Purgatory? You know, it's like, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor. So here we have the rich man that is perishing in hell, and he's in torment. And so here he looks up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus by his side. So he calls to him. It's really important you listen carefully. He calls him Father Abraham. He doesn't just call him Abraham. He calls him Father Abraham. So now we know that this man would have been a Jewish man, because he would have referred to Abraham as his father. Remember, I just pointed that out. And he says, Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I'm in agony in this fire. This is Jesus telling this story about heaven and hell. We have a picture here. But Abraham replies to the man, Son, he even calls him son. Remember that in your lifetime, you received your good things. The things that you worked for, the things that were important to you, the things that you were always consumed with, and you did very, very, very good. Need I remind you of where you lived? You did very well. So he says, but Lazarus, you received your good things while Lazarus received bad things. Clearly, the rich man covered his wounds with a physician probably, and the poor man out front, he waited for dogs to come and lick his sores. Lazarus, and now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides this, essentially what Abraham was saying is, you did what you wanted to do, and that was your destiny. And Lazarus did whatever he could not do, and this was his destiny. And besides all this, he goes on to explain to the man that between us and you is a great chasm that's been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us. That's a very important message, you guys. If you don't get this on this side of eternity, there isn't a second chance afterwards. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you're real now, God. Well, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do know I'm real now. I needed you to know it before. So there's not a second chance. You can't go to hell, much like what the rich man is saying. It's like, please, please, feel sorry for me. Let me out of here. And he's like, one cannot cross over from the other. So the man responds, this rich man, because now he knows. There's no question that the rich man understands how great all the things he had in this life compared to who God was. He knows it now. You know, have you ever heard that? Well, I know now. The rich man knows now who God is. And it's such a powerful truth for him. And the reason it's powerful is because it's a reality. Did you catch that? You and I, we don't live in heaven, the place we're going to go to after we die now. You and I, we don't live in hell, the place that some of us may end up now. We may experience moments of hell. We may experience experiences of heaven, but we do not live in those places. That is not a reality yet. So are you tracking with me? So for the rich man, it was a reality. I'm in hell. And the reality is, not theory, not teachings, not ideas. The reality is I can't get out. And I'm stuck here. And I know who God is now. And I also know that what was on that side was not worth what I'm getting now. So he says to Abraham, then I beg you, Father, would you at least send Lazarus to my family, who is still living? For I have 5 brothers. Please have them warn them so that they will not also come to this place of torment. Abraham replies, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. which is the same thing the rich man would have had. But he was too busy and didn't want to listen to those. He probably knew them, he could probably recite them, but he didn't know how to live them. There's a world of difference. And he says, no, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. If you come back, what he's saying is, send Lazarus back from the dead, which is pretty interesting considering it's Lazarus, it's resurrected in a few weeks, but anyways, just a little side note, kind of fun thing there. But he says, even if someone comes back from the dead, because that's what he's essentially saying. He's saying, that will get their attention. It will get their attention because they'll see that Lazarus is alive. That was the beggar that was at my gate. Have them go tell him, this is real. Your brother's in hell. You need to listen. Da, 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 da. And Abraham's response to them is, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. Prophesying not obviously Lazarus, but Jesus. Because all of us, I don't know if that's a reality for you. Who do you say that Jesus is? He is the Son of the living God. Really, is he? Or is that just a theory? Or is that such an embedded truth in your life that it is a reality that Jesus has risen from the dead for me? He has descended into hell and rose again for my life. He took my sin and he paid for it. I'm telling you right now, you guys, that is an absolute reality for me. It's not a theory. It's not an idea. It's not a really good concept that I can back up with the word. You can argue with me for day after day after day, month after month after month. You can disown me. You cannot like me. You can leave. You can ridicule me. You can mock me. You can do whatever you want. That reality will never stop being for me. That Jesus is the Son of the living God in my life. And I will not stop talking about it. Amen. It's just a reality. It's not an idea. It's a reality. Right? This story, you have to understand something. I want you to, because when I first read this story, I was like, is Jesus saying that all rich people go to hell? Was this man sinful because he was wealthy? No. That is not what this story is about. This man was, first of all, you have to understand, let me give you a picture of what a rich man would look like today. It's some of us in here. We are wealthy in the things that we have and all of our possessions and what we're able to do. And, you know, the fact that we can walk and use our arms and speak and talk, we're ahead of a lot of other people. There are some people that don't even have use of their legs or their arms or be able to talk or have challenges that you do not have. And we take for granted those challenges until you lose them. But we are wealthy with all sorts of our ability to do stuff, to make money and different things. But really, it is not what the rich man was doing. It's what he was not doing. That was the sin. He was clearly a churchman. I would venture a guess, to put it in terms you understand, more than likely he was probably a leader of a church, of what it would look like today. In fact, it would be a very large church. If you wanted to put it in picture today. We have some pastors of great, huge mega churches and organizations and all these kind of things. Put it in terms of be like somebody like that. I bet you he clearly was a Jewish man because of how he references Abraham. I bet you he went to temple regularly. I bet you he gave 10% of everything that he got, he gave back to the temple. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. I bet you he didn't just follow the written law. I bet you he followed the oral traditions, the things they came up with, and rituals that they had to do. I bet you he knew how to walk in, genuflect, bless himself, get the holy water. I bet you he knew everything how to do. But if you really knew who Moses and Abraham and these truths were, how does he go day after day stepping over a man in need? Now, I bet you he threw some scraps to him. How do I know that? Why do you think that guy stays out in front of Target all the time? People give him something. They give him $1. It works. They come back to the place where people will give him stuff. I bet you he continued. I bet you that was a good place for that beggar. I bet you Lazarus was like, well, this is a place to be. This dude gets lots of visitors. People feel sorry for me. And clearly, maybe the rich man was wasteful and he got good meals. He was probably like, oh man, there's a party going on. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to dig in the trash and get some really good food this time. Some would say, well, the rich man didn't shoo him away. No, he knew enough not to do that. How could you have so much and not share it? How is it that a dog had to tend to this man's wounds, but this very wealthy man didn't? Why didn't you move him into your house even? Now, be very careful how you're hearing this, because I guarantee you there's at least one of you in here that just went, oh, you're supposed to take the person out front of Target and move him into our house? Try to listen with your spiritual ears, okay, and not your everyday ears. What's happening here is what's called apathy. The sin of apathy, it's the sin of doing nothing. And I put the definition of apathy up here. It's an absence or suppression of passion, emotion, or excitement about something. It's a lack of interest in or concern for things that others find moving or exciting. I'm going to tell you something that this rich man didn't realize. The poor man out front, that for whatever life circumstances brought him to that moment of absolute need, I'm telling you, that lit Jesus up. And if you don't believe me, read the Gospels, because Jesus was always excited. And what I mean by excited, he's not like, yay, you're poor and sad. Meaning what really got Jesus' juice going was seeing people in need and helping them, because he knew he could. Because he had the power to save, he had the power to heal, he had the power to give hope, and he had the power to do that. So how is this rich man, who probably would have said, oh, just like, we have all these big, church leaders that might say, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God, the Son of the living God. He is the Messiah. He is Christ. He resurrected on the third day for my sins. Really? Yet, you're not doing certain things that would excite Jesus. Jesus doesn't care if we have high-tech things in this room. Jesus doesn't care that our chairs are comfortable or that everything's really as it's supposed to be. He cares, do you love each other? Do you care about each other? Because buildings don't light Jesus up, people do. And this rich young man, it's this, it's like a lack of interest. And some of us, essentially apathy, let's not confuse this, you guys. Apathy and lazy are not the same. This rich man was far from lazy. He was very, very busy. I'm sure he was a wonderful father. I'm sure he provided beautifully for his children, his grandchildren, those that knew him. I'm sure he was very generous in many ways. And I'm sure he was quite busy doing whatever it is that he did. So make no mistake about it, you guys. Apathy is not being lazy. Because some of you are thinking, but I'm just so busy. I know you are. And that's what the rich man would have said. But I was so busy. I didn't mean to ignore him. Please, Abraham, have pity. Feel sorry for me. I'm stupid. Feel sorry for me. I'm ignorant. I wasn't thinking. I was so busy. Right? So laziness and apathy are not the same. He truly was just more apathetic, and what he was apathetic to, you guys, what the absence or suppression for him or the lack of interest is the truth of God. I don't know about you, but the truth of God lights me up. I love talking about the Lord. I love talking about his word. I would love to, there are certain people that I'm drawn to because they will talk about the word with me, and I love it. Because I'm excited about the truths of God. And I get real excited when I see it happening in people's lives. I just get really excited about that. I am far from apathetic about God's truth. If you think back, there's also some scripture, and I probably have the reference up in a minute, but when God, I don't know how many of you know the history of the church, but when the temple was destroyed because the king of Babylon came in, which God let them, and they overtook, and they were in captivity for 70 years. So then when they returned back to Jerusalem where the temple was, it lied in ruins. It was a hot mess. right? There was just stuff everywhere. So the prophet Haggai, God spoke through that prophet, and I just want to kind of, I know I have one or two verses up there, but I want you to understand that God spoke through this prophet. In fact, he was telling them in regards to, here the temple lies in ruins, and the response, God says, I hear what you guys are saying. This is exactly what you guys are saying. The time has not yet come to rebuild the Lord's house. That's what the God's people were saying to whoever would listen. We're going to do that. Some of you are like, oh, I have young children, so when they're grown, I'm really going to get involved in the church. I'm really busy with my job, so when I retire, I'm going to get involved in the church. When I'm done doing this, then I'm going to. Then you're in Hades going, Abraham! Oops. It's his word, not mine. So he responds, isn't it time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains in ruin? You know what they did? They all came back to Jerusalem and they said, come on, let's get busy, man. We got our city back. Let's now get our houses put together. And once our house is done, then we'll tend to the church. You know, once everything else is done, you know, once we get our cars and get those, then we'll tend to the church. You know, it's not time yet. Almost. We'll get to building the house. And again, it's not about a building, it's about people. So many of us are so consumed. Why do you not come to Bible study? Because you don't need it. Really? I don't know about you, but I need to study the Bible all the time. But some point you will. So when you need it, when the time comes, but right now, you don't need it. Right? Because you're busy. You've got priorities that you have to tend to. You've got relationships. You're trying to parent kids. You're trying to hold down your job. And when you get your life situated, oh, Lord, look out. I'm going to be the best churchman you've ever seen. When I get my life together. Do you know the biggest reason when I ask people, even in leadership, to disciple another person, do you know what their biggest reason is? I'm not there yet. Dear God, when are you gonna get there? See, that's that same premise. It's not about houses because the temple resides in each one of us now. It's not about this building. It's about what we have inside of us. Together, we make up the body of Christ. We make up the temple, right? And so when some of you don't come to Bible study, but somebody might need your encouragement and your words, and what you have to say, God can speak through you as much as he can speak through me. And I'm encouraged by you, and I'm challenged by you, and hopefully you're encouraged and challenged by me, and that's what the body of Christ does. And I don't want to be so busy going, well, you know, when I figure it out a little bit more for me, when I'm feeling better about me, then I'll contribute. Because we're consumed with our own little temple instead of going over here. Even if you look at the words in Malachi, which now just to give you a time frame, Haggai was a prophet that spoke about 70 years after the temple was destroyed. Okay? So he says, everybody come back, come back. So God gathers up his people, and they're back in Jerusalem. But remember, the temple is, and the temple, you have to remember, you guys, was the one place that they came to meet with God. They did do enough to build an altar at least there so that they could kind of do, it's kind of like doing the bare minimum. You know, I don't want to feel real bad, so I'm at least going to put a quarter in the offering, because I want to say I didn't do nothing. So I want to do the bare minimum. And so that's what they did, because they knew, you have to understand, you guys, they didn't have Jesus like we do. They don't have the Holy Spirit like we do. The only way they connected with God was through the temple. It's through the altar. So they at least made the altar, but everything else was just a hot mess. But it's the only place they could go to meet with God. And obviously it wasn't that important to them to go meet with God, because after all, they were busy trying to get their life together. They were consumed with what was going on in their own lives, that they didn't even tend to the place where they all meet and encounter God. They just didn't even tend to that. Which the temple was designed for everybody to come together, to be encouraged, to be uplifted, to remain pure, and then to be able to give out to those that have need, i.e. Lazarus, a beggar out in front. To help those in need. That's what the church should be a part of, helping those in need. And so then when God speaks to Haggai, they actually do build the temple. And so through a king, they build the temple that God calls them to build. They build that temple. It's not as, in fact, God even says, look at it. Any of you, were you around 70 years ago? Does that look anything like King Solomon's temple? And they'd say no. King Solomon's temple was spectacular. But this temple, at least, it was built and it was cared for and done. Now, about 70 more years, right? And now this is God speaking through Malachi. Malachi the prophet, because again, people became very complacent, very apathetic. Somebody else will do it. Yeah, do you know what happens in a small church? That somebody else will do it? It's fun. Well, nothing else, pastor will do it. Dear God, you guys, I sleep and need as much sleep as you do, and I have the same amount of hours in the day that you do. Right? But in a small church, somebody else will do it. Well, it's in big churches. That's the mentality of church. Do you know that the average, and I could be totally off on this quote, and I'll try to look up a more accurate one, but they've always said that 10% of the people do 100% of the work or something like that. They also talk about, that I think, a small percent, like 20% of the people give the majority of the money to try to fund the church, which doesn't typically happen. That's why we have to do love offerings. Hey, we need to take a love offering. Somebody's rent isn't, somebody needs help with rent. Somebody needs help with a hospital bill. Somebody needs help with their water. Somebody needs this. Hey, we're the body. We got to come together. Let's all pitch in and let's help pay for so-and-so's water bill. That's a beautiful picture, and it's something that was never intended to be. That is a practice in the American church. Do you know why we have to take love offerings? Let's make this an open discussion. Why do we have to take love offerings? Anybody guess? Yes, because not everybody's tithing. That's why. And here's an apathetic attitude. Somebody else will do it. You're right. There is other people doing it, but not enough. Jesus didn't say, as long as 10 out of 100 of you really believe that I am the Christ, the Son of the living God, that's enough. No. You all need to believe that as a confession of faith. But we have a very apathetic attitude, and that's what was happening in Malachi. In fact, he was challenging them and said, you guys are not with me, you need to return to me. And they said, return to you? What do you mean? Where did we go? And he said, you're robbing me. And they go, robbing you? We're not robbing God. We're not even paying attention to you. How could we be robbing you? And his answer is that you are under a curse, your whole nation. Don't you guys get it? Because we're not obedient with doing our part in the body of Christ, not just financially, but serving in different things, our whole nation falls under a curse. In other words, there's people that are struggling, and just like this, we should have enough money to tell Jerry that we'll fix her car. Unfortunately, we don't. We should have enough money to help Kayla with student loans. We should have enough money to help somebody else who needs their rent paid. We should have enough money in this church to do that. Yes, we should. But unfortunately, all of us, there's a lot of us that are still struggling, and we're going to continue to struggle. And do you know why? It's disobedience in the church. And you could say, well, I'm not as disobedient as that person. Apathy. Apathetic. Those of us that step over trash, somebody else will pick it up. Somebody else will pick it up. Somebody else will do it. Until it becomes a problem. Amber and I were at the store the other day. This guy gets out of his car. They put things on the windshield, you know. It was like a magazine, practically. And so, have you noticed that? People will litter right in front of your face. They don't care. Some of you might be litterers, and if I could just tell you, please stop that. But anyways, and so he takes it off and he just throws it on the ground, gets in his truck and goes. And she was like, I can't believe that. Now, he probably thinks, what's the big deal? It's one piece of paper. Yeah, because it's all about you, Bob. But what if every single person that did that, now you go into that shopping center, you know what? Those same people will say, I don't want to shop there. It's like a trash place here. Yeah, I don't know how it got like that. Right? Apathy. Then the whole place kind of comes under a curse. And so here's this beautiful promise that God says. He says, bring the whole tithe, and if it's not already up there, it is. Bring the whole tithe, and a tithe is giving God whatever's first. Everything you guys have been given. Part of giving him the first 10% of whatever you can. It's not just money. It's about serving. Now that doesn't mean some of you go, oh, good, as long as I don't have to give financially because I'm replacing it with serving. That is a lie of the devil. God didn't say, it's okay, there's some stipulations. In the back of the book, I have this little section where you're okay. What? It doesn't. So we give, but there's this beautiful promise in this verse. Look at this verse. God says, test me. I would love for all of First Church, I would love to be able to throw out a test and say, I would love for every single person for 1 month to tithe. Some of you just had a stroke, so don't panic, I ain't forcing you. But to give 10% of whatever you got on your paycheck and give it to God's use, to do whatever He wants to do, it would blow your mind how much money would come in. And some of you think, why? Is there wealthy people here? We are unbelievably wealthy. The poorest person in here is totally wealthy. And do you know what? God even says, test me. Just do that and see if I don't throw open the floodgates of heaven, pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. Because it won't just be the financial gain that we'll see. Do you realize the amount of blessings that God would pour out on this church if we were obedient? It would blow your mind. God would be healing people. Bruce. We'd be praying for Bruce and we'd be getting a phone call this afternoon. I guarantee you. Because God is going to pour out His blessings. His blessings are not just money. That there will not be room enough to store it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crops. Vines in your fields will not drop their fruit before it's ripe. In other words, nothing will go to waste. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land, says the Lord Almighty. Most people have no interest in coming to church. We kind of look kind of pathetic most of the time. You know? And it's really meant to be, God says, I'm going to put me in this world, the body of Jesus Christ, so that people want to come. Throw open the floodgates. So I want to do something right now, and I want to thank, because we have a lot of people in this congregation. We are really fortunate. I would say that more than 10% do the majority of the work. We are a great church because we are a church of Jesus Christ. I love this church. Could we be better? Absolutely. Because I can promise you this, not everybody is tithing and not everybody is serving. And because of that, there are needs in the church. Emotional, just like you that says, I don't need to go to Bible study. Somebody needs you. When are you going to figure that out? It's not just about you. Can you offer an arm? Can you offer a word? Can you pray? Can you do something? Absolutely. Absolutely you can do that. But there are people in this church that have done that. And so what I want to do, and I've asked my leadership to help me with this. So your board members are Kyle in the back. He's already standing up. Linda, can you stand? Nick, would you stand? Where's Amber? Oh, sorry, there you are. Amber. Garrett is on a spiritual retreat. He's probably praying right now with his son that the Giants win. But anyway, so I'm going to have Mike and Julie stand up. They're our children's and youth person. Have I left a board member out? I feel like I have. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd know if you're a board member, James. Who am I missing? Maybe that's it. Maybe Carol. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk these around. My microphone might cut out. And these are it's just chocolate. Don't get excited. But some of you probably really love it. And so, but these are just a simple way to say, I want to thank you for being the church. I want to thank you for not just showing up, but showing up and saying, what can I do? I care about the mission of Jesus Christ here at 915 Rosemary. And these guys give way more than you realize. They come here early, they help at a moment's notice. We are so fortunate to have Mike Seiberts. You teens should be clapping for him right now. He is awesome. Okay? So I just, I hopefully this doesn't squeal, the microphone doesn't squeal if I walk up. I'll throw it to you. Okay? And Julie, we have been just rocking it with the children. I don't know if you've gotten to be here on a Wednesday night or even Sunday mornings, but our kids are growing, which is awesome. You know why? Because the kids are hearing the truth, and they're telling other kids and say, you got to come hear this. That's the church, you guys. That's how the church works. So, there you go. Sorry, I'm not a very good thrower. So, my spiritual gift. And so, Amber, I'm telling you right now, I couldn't do anything without Amber because she's always my go-to. Hey, come help me. And so she just helps. She's at this church more than most of you probably realize. She does a lot of behind-the-scene things, and she's very generous. I will tell you, she's very generous. And then there's Nick. Everyone likes to call him Saint Nick. Because he just gives and gives. It doesn't matter what it is. He does. He serves. He's the one that puts everything, or at least is instrumental. And some of you think it's not a big deal. Do you know what? Somebody needed to light these this morning. I know some of you want to sleep in. Did you notice Nick had to run up and light that? You know why? Somebody wasn't here to do it. So I appreciate you, Nick. Look at that. Okay, Linda is always willing. You see her walking around with the water and the cookies. Anytime you need hospitality, Linda's afraid I'm going to throw a beaver in the head. She's like, I'll just come up and get it. That'd be great. Don't throw it. She's a smart woman. She's the smartest one on our board. We don't know what we would do without her. She levels us out. And where's Kayla? There's Kayla back there. Kayla is, even though we've never really officially given her the title worship leader, I mean, let's face it, is she not our worship leader? There you go. And I tell you what, Kayla's at a place in her life where she's trying to balance a whole lot of things. And sometimes all the balls hit the ground and she could definitely use prayer and support and green stuff. No, just kidding. But she's kind of at this crossroads of where is she going to go. But I tell you what, she knows one thing, that God's called her to just show up there every Sunday and just lead us in worship. And that takes a lot, you guys. I don't know about you, but you don't want me leading worship. I'll do it one Sunday. That way you guys will really appreciate Kayla. So, I don't want to hit Dawn. That could happen. There you go. Okay, and Julie, did I ever give you yours?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, Kyle in the back. So, Kyle is, he helps us with everything. He's the one that keeps everything going up there, but he's also a great addition to our board. Super helpful in a lot of ways. He's helping Garrett with the men's. And just a great spirit of always, you know, when Kyle was first here, Mark, some of you don't realize it because you're all leaving to get to Denny's. That's fun. And so, but Mark actually resets up the stage and takes everything down. And yes, you can help. Anyway, so Mark does all that. First Sunday, Kyle's here. He walks up to Mark and says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Do you have 10 friends?" So, I'm not going to start. That's going to be tough. I really could hurt somebody. Liz would be beamed right in the forehead. There we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. So, and it's just not me who's grateful, but all of these guys want to be able to hand out some to people who help. Because it's not just our board. So if you want to take a couple or let Mike. And so go ahead, any of my leadership that would like to share. Not for you to eat. So let's go. Can you guys share who you're giving them to and why, Mike? You're giving some out, but can you say why? I'm sorry.
Yeah. When I showed up, how long ago did I show up? A year and a half ago. Nick is absolutely fantastic. He's got such an incredible heart. Nicholas. All right. He's just an incredible person.
Yes.
He is there every Wednesday, every single Wednesday. Unless the water is closed in this apartment complex. And his awesome mom, Jerry, if you guys don't know Jerry, everybody should know Jerry, right? Consistently shows up Wednesdays at 4 o'clock over at the Ministry Center.
Every Wednesday, you're at 4 o'clock to sit with Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
She's there for 4.5 hours easy, almost 5 hours every Wednesday, dedicating that time to the teens. I think it's touched Liz, the impact that she's had on some of those girls that are over there. And you guys don't get to see it, unfortunately. There's a huge group of teens that come over on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to the Ministry Center that unfortunately are not here today. They're all over the place, and they're just great kids, and we get to stand as a team to show them a little bit of Jesus' love, and it's just an amazing thing to be able to,
all right.
to be part
Cool.
of. Thank you.
I think Kayla, do you have some? he the greatest drummer?
Yeah. You guys deserve the most recognition ever. I think that sometimes lately, like, I'm getting to this place where I'm overwhelmed and don't want to lead worship, but I come because his spirit, like, during practice, just like playing on the table, really like reminds me why I'm here, and it's like experiencing that music, that way it touches you in that sense. And so, yeah, I know that it's really hard for him because he works a lot, and still he's the one, like, instead of me texting them, once again, he's texting me and saying, like, so are we having practice tonight? And if I say yes or no, he's okay with it, and he shows up every Sunday.
Dwayne's like, maybe I've overstated the
Definitely
okay.
my favorite. And then my dad, because he birthed me.
Because he technically, I birthed you. Thank you. I could just get some credit. He was in the room. Twice.
He was, it's really interesting because when I was a kid, I used to think, like, I knew I had, like, musical talent and stuff, but ultimately I didn't really know where it came from. But then all of a sudden, we went through this time where we didn't have a worship leader and didn't have any instrumentalists. So my dad started practicing drums, and literally within like a couple of months, I mean, he's definitely no like Dwayne, but the fact that he could keep the rhythm was just goes to show that he has that like ability to pick up an instrument. Same thing with bass. Like, I don't even think even Chad offered to like teach him and stuff, and he didn't even need it. He just like bring out something. So it's one thing to not play music, but then to be able to connect to with your dad. Me and him don't really have many connections and anything. This has really brought us closer together. So thank you, Dad. And then Chad, my boyfriend. And because he shows up every Sunday because he cares for me, and he's really good at playing the guitar. And he also has a lot going on. He's in the same circumstance in life right now where we're both young adults, have no idea where our lives are going. And so it's really hard to feel like you can make a commitment to a team. But every time like he tries to do it, he always still shows up every Sunday, just like me. Like, the difference is like I felt called, but it means a lot when you have that instrumentalist with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope you guys really caught that. Mark taught himself how to play because he saw a need in the church. And I don't say that just because he's my husband, but there's a lot of people that you're not doing something because you don't think you can. Okay, fix it. So.
My name's Sabrina. We kicked off our new Wednesday night program with kids last February. And Sabrina continuously has stocked crafts, snacks, huge success. I did not have to worry ever about what activity the kids were going to do because Sabrina took care of everything, down to little individualized bags for each kid. So all I had to do was just pass it out really quick and just like that.
All right. And
so amazing. She comes every Wednesday night. We started a new kids program September 2nd, so the kids come dressed up with in some kind of a theme that matches our lesson. And Miss Sabrina showed up every Wednesday in the dress up and ready to just lend a hand wherever is needed. So I appreciate you. I love you.
Cool.
And then I'm going to move on to Heather and Aaron. So the three of us have got together and planned a whole year's worth of lessons for our children's program from September all the way through summer. And so thank you so much for your willingness to show up.
There's another person who just came into church and just says, what do I need to do? She gets what it means to be the church.
She leads our worship Wednesday nights. She's brave. She goes up on the stairs with the kids and leads worship. So I don't have to do that because I'm not good at hand motions. And so she comes faithfully every single Wednesday night, her and Aaron, to lead our kids in worship. And then she's been teaching too with the kids with Aaron. So thank you. You're appreciated.
Amen.
Today has been my helper, my sign-in person on Wednesday night to make sure the kids are checked in and gets a name tag and passes out stuff on Wednesday nights and cleans up for me. So
Good.
then Nancy back here. Nancy, you are a rock star.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I love you. I send this Nancy frantic text messages. Can you make me a flyer? Can you get a snack? Can you do this? Can you do that? And her response is always, yes, of course. Yes, I'll do that. Again, Nancy shows up every single Wednesday night. Nancy will do whatever it is. She sees the need and she meets it, whether it's setting up snacks, cleaning up, helping a kid, bathroom lunch, whatever it is, she does that faithfully, so thank you.
Oh, there you go.
Children's worker, her and I teach Sundays Children's Church. She's amazing, awesome. I appreciate your willingness. And can you give this to Darren?
Yeah, Darren, one of our teens. Huge asset in children.
Her son Darren, some of you probably have seen him around here, literally is, he has a servant's heart to work with kids. I turn around and he already is doing what I would ask him to do. I don't even have to say it. He already knows and he just gets it done. And he's still smiling at the end of Children's Church. So he is amazing.
All right. Nick? Do you want to give those two?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one to you, Kat.
Oh, thank you.
About 8 years ago, I was still working on a book. I don't remember. I was working a job in Tracy, and I told my wife, well, you know, any Sunday that I was in Stockton, I would come to church. So we're leaving one day, and Pastor was starting a discipleship class here at the church, and she wanted to know if I had signed up for it. And I told her no, that I worked, because that was the most important thing in my life. I mean, I did not miss work. I worked an ungodly amount of hours. And anyway, so she said, well, I can meet with you in the morning before you go. And so for a couple of years we did that. We met Friday morning at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9. And she got me started on this journey that I would never been on without.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it.
So I could tell you a lot of stuff about
Yeah.
that. But anyway, that was a good thing. My friend Ray right here, that he thinks that I'm helping him. He is helping me way more than I am helping him, because Ray and I meet a couple times a week, and we're studying different books of the Bible. And so if it wasn't for that fact, I wouldn't be reading as diligently as I am. I wouldn't be looking at all the different references and things like that. I kind of think that, you know, to me it'd be stupid that, well, let's get together and have this study, and then him say, well, what does this mean? I don't know. And me say, well, I don't know what it means either, so that'd be a real short study. Anyway, Roy, thank you, Rick. I appreciate all that you do for me. And Karen, what Karen does, Karen is the prayer lady.
Yeah, all those things that go in this box, she takes home and prays. Yeah.
Takes them home and prays for people. And that impresses me. Because people that can do things that I can't do, I'm talking about. And people that can do things that I can't, just appreciate, you know. And Pumpkin as well. Pumpkin is right there. I don't think she even had known her that.
Yes, that is true. She doesn't. Say it after me, Pumpkin. No. We're going to teach you. Yes, Pumpkin has a great heart. Linda?
Well, I just gave a bag to Earl as long as he promised to share it with Annette. Maybe because I'm getting close to his age group, but Earl is an elder in our church, and I was reading this week about how the elders will be models and be servants and continue to serve. And, you know, a few years ago I would think to myself, well, I'll continue to serve to such and such an age, and then I'm not going. And that's not the way service works. Fortunately, God has blessed like to get to know you. Thank you for coming. And Virginia. Welcome, Virginia, to our fellowship. Thank you.
All right.
Let's get to know you.
Anybody else? Amber?
Yeah, the people that came to my mind were people that are really behind the scenes. I mean, just absolutely behind the scenes. And I'll run a piece of candy over to them. But Missy and Mom, my sister
Yep.
and my mom in the nursery, they are always in there, always willing to do it. And just they lay themselves down to be able to do for others so that
Yeah.
all of you guys can be in here. But the other person that came to my mind was Jamie. And she is just one of the most generous people here. She just absolutely, whether it's a smile, an encouraging text, she befriends people. She has a heart. I mean, she just knows when there's a need without you asking. And that's very rare to find somebody that you don't have to ask. They just do it, and they just know where the Lord's heart is at. And so she is always very generous and very giving of her time, and somebody you can absolutely count on.
All right. That's great. Okay. There's some candy up here that if you want, you can come and grab. But there's so many things, I mean, that we could mention about people. You know, I think of Cynthia, my friend, who comes on Wednesday nights, and she brings her niece. I think it's your great niece, right? Technically. And she's nervous to come by herself. And so Cynthia, who loves coming to our Bible study, makes a sacrifice and says, it's important that my niece comes, so I'm going to sit with her. And so she's been going with her oftentimes in the children's thing. And so those are things about being the church. And I want to give you guys an opportunity. And some of you might be sitting there going, well, I've given things to the church. Nobody gave me a bag. And, sorry. And so, but even like, you know, thinking of Ray. You know, Ray jumps up and she helps to take the offering. The other thing, too, is I want to thank those of you that are financially faithful. Without you, we could not, this would not work. The financially faithful help to keep the ministries going in this church. And so you know who you are. I'm not going to single you out. And you know if you need to be. But I just want to thank those that do that. That is a huge, they always say that's the last thing to get sanctified is your wallet. And it's true. This is why Jesus said, when it came down to it, he says, you can't serve two masters. And the example that he gives is God and money. Because money has power and has power over your life. There's a reason why you get sensitive to me even talking about it. Right now, if you're getting uncomfortable and sensitive, whenever I mention money, I want to tell you something. Money is a god for you. You need to deal with that. You know, it shouldn't have, if I talk about other things, how come you don't get upset? If I talk about your time or these type of things, it's kind of like, oh, da, da, da. But as soon as you talk about money, it's like, oh, I knew it. It's like, why are you getting so defensive? Don't be questioning my money, right? Because it's, you know. But I want to thank those that are financially faithful to the body, even when it's difficult to do. And I know, because when I was new, starting out, Mark and I, there's times where we said, well, we just don't have it to do. And I'm telling you what, every time we did that, washing machine broke, the car broke down, everything. I was like, unbelievable. You know, but whenever we have we committed to give many years ago, just obey that, and boy, it works. God is so faithful to us. And he does throw open the floodgates of heaven in your own life, but he wants to do it in the church so that the people see that. So in a few minutes here, I'll have the worship team join me back up here, but now I want to involve all of you. Every member of leadership has a clipboard. And I don't want us to spend a whole lot of time with this. I have one. Mark, yours is up here, I think. Kayla has one. Julie has one. Mike has one. Kyle has one in the back. Linda has one. Nick has one. And let me just really quick for time's sake, because what I want you to do is this is your opportunity, not to pray about it, but your opportunity to respond. You know, being the church, there's some of you, I just need to say this, and I feel strongly to say it. I felt it a couple days ago, and I'm feeling it strong right now. Some of you, and you know who you are, you have no business just attending church. You are at a place spiritually where you need to be contributing. You need to be the church. Attending a church and being the church are two different things. You may even be a member at a church because you attend it all the time. But being the church, from as simple as helping us to take the offering, helping us even to financially contribute. Financially contributing is being the church. Maybe that's all you can do right now, is to at least be faithful in giving to your local church so that God can be glorified. Your time. You know, we specifically did that because I really wanted to make sure you knew that there was things that maybe you don't see. You don't see Jerry over there at 4 o'clock. Or you don't see what Nick and Ray do throughout every Sunday. They come here, they hang the banner. These candles get lit, these get turned on. This communion doesn't float here. It's powerful, but it ain't that powerful. Right? And so somebody sets that video camera up. Somebody takes those videos home